Good day, people. Trust you're all doing great today. Trust you've had a good week so far. I'm happy to, be back here again. Just continue with the stories that we're sharing. That I am sharing. Um, if you saw my video last week, you saw how I started my Canadian immigration story or testimony, if you like. And I just shared briefly about how it all started, how I got a word, a prophecy that said that I was, um, to relocate. And I must say that honestly, when that word came, so again, if you haven't watched my last video, please do so that you can connect the dots. Okay. So when that word came from the man of God at the time, saying that I was the one who was supposed to relocate in a crowd of, so many people, I was like, okay, relocate. Why? Because all I was doing was trying to, get a visa to go to the U.S. After my brother's wedding. We were just supposed to go on a holiday. I just came out to just, say to God, just show me favor as we go for our US visa interview, which was happening maybe 2 or 3 days after this service. Anyway, the man of God tells me that I'm the one that is supposed to relocate. And as I was leaving that service, I said to God, I said, Lord, you know what? I mean, my husband has been talking about relocating to Canada, but so let me phrase that again. He has been talking about his colleagues who had been looking at the option to relocate to Canada, and on several occasions he had mentioned that that was not something that he was interested in. At the time he made those comments, honestly, I didn't know what the process of moving to Canada was like. Yes, I had just come back from the UK, and I've shared that story also, in the past. Um, I had no clue. I knew nothing about what relocating to Canada, what the process was like, because it was never something that, I had thought to look into. But he would say, oh, his colleagues are doing this thing, but he has never been interested in it. And he has said that thing at least 2 or 3 times. So I said to God, I said, this is a man that has always said he's not interested in going to Canada. And here I'm getting this prophecy that we're supposed to go to Canada. And I said, Lord, if this is really you, I'm not going to mention this to my husband. You go and tell him yourself. You go and put it in his heart yourself. Again, remember this stories or these videos are really for people who doubt the existence of God. I'm hoping that this story will, if all the stories I've shared before have not convinced you, maybe this one will. So I said to the Lord, I'm not going to tell him anything. I'm not even going to mention that this came up. You go and tell him yourself, and then yeah, let's see. Anyway, nothing happened. We went for a US visa, and that is another story on its own, the miracle. Or maybe I should just quickly share that, and then I'll continue with the Canadian story. Anyway, we went for the US visa. Honestly, at the time, remember, if you have listened to my stories, I said to you that when the Lord put the that impression on my heart to go to the US, I didn't even have a job. I was still trying to put my life together, organize my life. And we did everything, did all the paperwork. Miraculously, money came that we needed to pay for the visas. We did that, and then it was time to go to the embassy. And you know how Nigerians will know this, maybe not so much for anyone else who is not Nigerian, but when we're going for US visas in those days, the expectation is that you would have enough money in your account showing that you could afford your trip, you could afford your tickets and all of that. Honestly, our account, what was in my husband's account at the time, or our joint account, could not even buy one person's ticket. And this was 4 of us going for this interview. But there was a scripture I held on to, Psalm 106, verse 7, I believe it is, that says that, remember me, O God, with the favor that you bestow upon your people. Remember me, O God, with the favor that you bestow upon your people. And I kept declaring that scripture, the entire verse, right? Let us see the goodness of your people. Let us, inherit the joy of your people. I kept declaring that scripture over us. And so we go for this interview. It wasn't just me, myself, my family, and then my brother's family also, right? We went in for this interview. We didn't have. So what some people will do is, they will get people to borrow them money. They will pump up their account, make their account look like they have a lot of money. But we didn't do any of that, because I just thought, you know what, God, if this is really you, if you're the one that said we should go to the US, then we'll go there with things, as it is, faking nothing. So we went to the interview, and anyone who knows what the US Embassy is like in Nigeria, is an open space. Hundreds of people are being interviewed at the same time. People are sitting, waiting for their turn, so they can actually see whether you get a visa or not. Right? It's like a really big space with lots of immigration officers, interviewing people. We went there. They asked us questions. Where are you going to? We mentioned, what are you going to do there? We told them we're going on holiday. They looked at our documents. They asked me what I do. I told them that I'm a homemaker, and that was what I was at that time. Well, I'm still a homemaker. I have another job, but yeah, my primary job is homemaking. But yeah, I told the guy, and in fact, while he was still interviewing us, some other guy, his family had just been rejected, and the guy was saying, I am a manager in this, I've earned so much money. In fact, the amount he mentioned that he earned, I knew that my husband didn't, he also knew that he didn't earn that. But here he was being refused. And then, that sort of startled me, because I thought, okay, if they're refusing this person, what are the chances? Anyway, long and short of it is that we got that visa. And my brother's family also got his own visa, even though my brother had not responded on his form that he had tried to go to the US in the past. Maybe he forgot, because it was such a long time ago. But I know that myself and my sister-in-law were trusting God. So in fact, we were confident that, this was something that God had done for us. And we came out of that interview, with our approvals. Anyway, back to the Canadian story. So this happened in April. I didn't say anything to my husband about that service. I never mentioned it. One day in the month of May, I was at home. I think I was preparing a meal, and my husband calls me, and he's asking me that your uncle in Canada, are you in touch with him? Can you contact him? Because we need some information from him. And I'm thinking, what information do you need from him? And I said, well, yeah, I may be able to. You remember that my aunt who invited me to the meeting that I talked about last week? Please watch my video. Anyway, she's his youngest sister. So I said, yes, I can contact her and get, some information. And then I think when I contacted her, she actually told me that he's no longer in Canada, that he's now in the US. And I told my husband, well, he's no longer in Canada, he's now in the US. And then not long after, he calls me back. He was just asking me questions that I did not understand why he was asking me all those questions about my experience in the UK. Different questions. And I was like, what is all this? Why are you asking me all these questions? He said, well, that this Canadian thing, he's looking at it. I said, what? You're looking at what? Relocated to Canada, that's something he's looking at, that maybe that's something that he has looked at it. So far, the numbers are looking like we would need, I think he said, I don't even know how much, tens of millions of naira. This was somebody who was earning God knows how much at that time. I wasn't working. And then he was saying, hey, I looked at the numbers, it's going to cost us so much, but we'll just need to trust God. I was like, what is happening? What are you talking about? Anyway, I was just in shock. I was like, let me just wait for him to come home to understand what is happening. So my husband comes home, and then I said, please, what's happening, this Canadian thing? He said, yes, that he has just been looking at the research. I said, research? How? Why? Why are you thinking about Canada? What's happening? He said, he was on a blog, one of the online blogs, and he was reading a story about a couple, that a couple got killed, and he was reading on. He saw that the couple was killed in, as it was aware. Anyway, the guy and his wife, were killed in Canada. And that immediately he saw that word Canada, that his eyes just couldn't get off that Canada, and he started researching how to relocate to Canada. I said, sorry, I don't think I'm hearing you right. You read that a couple was killed, as in somebody killed them, and they were killed in Canada. And then now you want to go to Canada. He said, just forget about that. But I was doing the research that there's actually a lot of things that we need to do, that we can actually use a consultant, but that, there's actually a lot that he needs to look into. We need so much money. The amount he was going at, and maybe I think he said 8 million naira, something like that. And these were people that didn't have the money that they were going to use to go to the US. Sorry, I'm laughing because I'm just amazed at God's humor. Anyway, that was when the whole journey began. And then my husband was so engrossed in the research. He was searching things out. He was, trying to figure out. A lot of people who immigrate to Canada use immigration consultants, because the truth is there's really so much that you need to know, right? But my husband, dove into this thing, and he was researching, and we needed all this money. We needed to write exams. We needed to get our certifications or our qualifications certified. So many things that involved money. I'm going to keep this video really short, and I'm going to come back and just continue on how God showed up through this. I mean, I'm here now in Canada, so you know that, yes, somehow things worked out. But I'm going to come back to share how those things worked out, and how that it was only this God, this great and mighty God, the great things that he did, the amazing, unbelievable things that he did to get us here. I'm going to come back and share that with you. And then along the line, I'm also going to share the many things that he has done for us since we moved to Canada. And I'm hoping that these stories will again get that one person who is still doubting that there is a God. It will get you thinking, how? I never mentioned Canada to my husband. And then he comes to me to say that a couple was killed and now he wants to relocate. Okay. Anyway, I'll leave it there. Thank you so much for watching up to this point. I will be back to finish up, to continue the story. Let me not say finish up, to continue the story. Take care and have yourself a blessed week.